I have a very good relationship with President Xi. I'm going to be going to China in April. That's going to be a wild one. I said, but we have to put on the biggest display you've ever had in the history of China. You know, last time I went to China, President Xi, he treated me so well. He gave me a display. I never saw so many soldiers all the same height, exactly the same height within a quarter of an inch. You can do that when you have 1.4 billion people. You know, lots of shoulders. Everybody was within about 1/8 of an inch the same height. I said, if they put their helmets down, you could have played pool on the top of their heads. And it was pretty amazing. But I said, you got to top it. He said, I'll top it. We're going to top it. We're going to have a lot of the people, most of the fake news back there is going to be going. So we have, Steve has done a great job. And then a little bit later on, we brought Jared in. Jared was responsible for the Abraham Accords, which is incredible. Nobody else could have done that. A very smart guy. And we're making Jared an envoy also, envoy of peace. They're both envoys of peace. And you couldn't get two. I tell you what, I watch these two guys. I say, at least we're covered from an IQ standpoint. These two guys walk into a room. And but people like them both, you know. They're good people. And they like them both. And they've had some very good meetings. They've had some very interesting meetings having to do with, as you know, Iran is a hot spot right now, and they're meeting, and they have a good relationship with the representatives of Iran, and, you know, good talks are being had. It's proven to be, over the years, not easy to make a meaningful deal with Iran. We have to make a meaningful deal. Otherwise, bad things happen. But we have to make a meaningful deal. But they have a great relationship with the representatives of Iran. They have a great relationship with the other one that they're really working on now, because so many of these, I mean, as an example, Kosovo, Serbia. I did that one. Could you stand up, if any of you guys are, when you're here, just stand up for a second. Kosovo, Serbia. Stand up. What a job. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. So good. And you're getting along. And when you don't get along, you'll call me, and we'll get it solved, right? Samodi, he's excited. He's watching us right now. Egypt and Ethiopia. We're going to get that, you know, there's a little dam that got built. Little dam, like maybe the largest dam in the world. Built and financed, of course, by the United States brilliantly. And having a little trouble getting water to the Nile. That's a tough situation, but we're going to get that solved. Armenia and Azerbaijan, we talked about. And again, thank you, fellas, very much. Great job. Great job. Thank you. Cambodia and Thailand. So incredible what you did, that you got together and it all worked out. They're watching right now on closed circuit. Thank you very much, and thank you. That was a big one, Cambodia and Thailand. These are nasty fighters, I have to tell you. These fighters are nasty. Now we talk about, you talk nasty fighter, you're nice guys compared to this. Congo and Rwanda. That was, and we've got them pretty peaceful. There's little flare-ups every once in a while. I'll get a call once a week. Sir, there's a flare-up in the Congo again. We'll get it straightened out, right, Susie? We'll get it straightened out. And Israel, as you know, with, you could say Israel and numerous countries if you want to really know the truth, but Israel and Iran, and we'll see where that goes. But when you think of Israel, we've done the biggest thing of all. We have peace in the Middle East right now. That's bigger than people said it couldn't be done. For 3,000 years, they've been talking about Middle East. They said it couldn't be done. And you look at what's happened in Gaza. And one of the keys to it was when we took those beautiful, magnificent, we just ordered 22 more of them, updated model. The B-2 bombers are incredible. I never understood the B-2 bomber. I'd watch, it's a wing. And I've never quite understood that, Johnny. I'd look at it, I'd say it was beautiful, but what does it do? It carries very big bombs. And it went into Iran, and it totally decimated the nuclear potential. And when it decimated that, all of a sudden we had peace in the Middle East, because there was a black cloud hanging over the Middle East, and if that wasn't done, that cloud would have been there. And countries like Saudi Arabia, countries like Qatar, countries like, nobody could have signed. You would have had that threat. Nobody could have had, you couldn't have had peace in the Middle East. So now we may have to take it a step further, or we may not. Maybe we're going to make a deal. You're going to be finding out over the next probably 10 days. But this meeting today is proof with determined leadership, nothing is impossible. When I took office, the war in Gaza was raging with thousands of people being killed and no end in sight. Today, thanks to unrelenting diplomacy and the commitment of many of the great people in this room, we have 59 countries signed up on Gaza. Think of that. We have, it's amazing. But all the people, many, really so many in this room, the war in Gaza is over. It's over. There are little flames. Hamas has been, I think they're going to give up their weapons, which is what they promised. If they don't, it'll be, they'll be harshly met, very harshly met. They don't want that. All this stuff like they don't mind dying. They told me that's not true. Everyone said, oh, they don't mind dying. No, they don't want to die. They said, we don't want to die. People don't want to die. The ceasefire was held, and every last remaining hostage, both living and dead, has been returned back home. Think of that. That was an impossibility. And we did hundreds of hostages, but the last 20, and I always said to Steve and Jared, I said, the last 20 are going to be very tough, very, very tough. And we got them back. We got the living back, and then we only got about 16 of the dead. And we said, well, you got to get them all. You promised them all. And they dug and dug and dug. You can imagine it's a job that's brutal. And Hamas really did a lot of that work. And you got to give them credit for that. They brought the last one home a week ago, and we got all 28 of them, living and dead. The amazing thing, because I've never seen anything quite like it, the parents of the dead, they knew their boy was dead. This case, boys, all boys, men, but to the parents' boys. They knew their boy was dead. They wanted that dead body as much as if he were alive. And when they got them back, there was great sadness, but there was great joy, too. They wanted it as much as the people that got their sons back alive. But we got a lot of people before those 20, Steve, what nobody talks about. But, hundreds of people. We did a good job, and you guys did a fantastic job. I want to thank every nation that helped us achieve this monumental breakthrough, saving countless lives, and really bringing peace and bringing the concept of peace, because nobody thought peace in the Middle East. I've always heard peace in the Middle East is impossible, and it's turned out not to be. And we do have some work to do with Iran. They can't have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. You can't have peace in the Middle East if they have a nuclear weapon. And they can't have a nuclear weapon, and they've been told that very strongly. Since the hard-won ceasefire of last October, the United States and our partners have facilitated the delivery of vast amounts of humanitarian aid, numbers that nobody's ever seen before. In November, the United Nations Security Council unanimously approved the Board of Peace. And last month in Davos, we welcomed over 24 members to this very important new organization. And we are very closely working with the United Nations. In fact, I'm going to speak to the Secretary General in a little while. He's a good man. And I've had a good relationship. Other than in my last speech, they did turn off my teleprompter. I got up there. My teleprompter didn't work. I'm sitting in front of all of you people and more. I had no teleprompter. I knew I was in trouble because I'm walking up. The teleprompters are over here. I had the most beautiful speech ready. I was all set to knock them dead. First, I had an escalator that stopped. You know that. It's going up. Boom. It's lucky my movie star first lady was in front of me, because I put my hand on a certain part of her body, and I was able to stop my fall. Otherwise, because she had no trouble. I said, boy, that was a very sharp stop, Johnny. So I said, that was strange. I've been on a lot of escalators. It's never happened before. Usually it stops very slowly. This was just boom. But our First Lady was right in the proper location for me. I'm waving to people, and she was holding on a little tighter. She knew what was happening. She did. She said, that's a very successful movie out right now, like #1, can you believe this? And she's a big movie star. And I always say it's trouble, because I always say there's not room in one family for 2 stars. I told her that. We can't have 2 stars in one family. So I don't know what that means, but it's not good. But it is good because we're proud of her. She did people in the United States love the First Lady, and she did the movie, and it's become the biggest selling documentary in 20 years. Can you believe? The theaters are all packed. Women especially, they go back and they see it 2 or 3 times, 4 times. But together we're committed to achieving a Gaza that is properly governed throughout. The whole area is going to be, you know, so many countries that have really nothing to do with the Middle East, but they're maybe somewhat close by. They're all involved. They want to go in and fight. They tell me all the time, we'd like to send soldiers to fight if it's necessary. And I don't think it's going to be necessary. We have 2 countries that want to go in and do a number on Hamas. I said, I really don't think I hope it's not going to be necessary, because they made a promise, and they promised me I'd get rid of their weapons. Looks like they're going to be doing that, but we'll have to find out. But it's no longer a hotbed of radicalism and terror. And to end that, we have today, and I'm pleased to announce that Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, UAE, Morocco, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Uzbekistan, and Kuwait have all contributed more than $7 billion toward the relief package. That's great. Thank you, fellas. Thank you.